Hello and welcome back to the podcast that has had a litany of preseason injuries. However, there are a bunch of players training the absolute house down, a few players out of position, and there's a large number of centre bouncer clearances in that 8-quarter game you watched on the weekend. It is The Back Pocket. I am Jack, and joined as always by Alistair in our first episode since Brett Burton was here.
Yeah, I'm out of position and injured. So that's me. Jack can be the other one.
I'm out for the medium term, whatever that means. That's my favourite injury. Yeah, he's out for he's having a bit of surgery, little clean-up. He's out for the medium term.
I'm in for scans. No updates since December.
Yeah, I had a concussion last January. I'm still not playing. I didn't get delisted, but I'm a bit concerned, at least.
Yeah, no specifics on that one.
Announcing my retirement 18 days out from round one.
You've just gone through a litany of things. What are we here for, Jack?
Footy's back-ish.
It's not.
It's sort of back.
It's not back.
Footy programming's back.
Yeah, there were some practice games, and the practices...
They practiced.
Yeah.
It looked like they were trying to play football and it was too hot.
I watched about 3 minutes of one match and a couple of highlights of another on Twitter, and that is my entire knowledge going into this, so you're carrying team today.
Excellent. I was kind of going to go for some more general takes than some actual takes. Because
I'm going to take at least 10 minutes of the podcast to talk about Clarko, so you get your stuff out of the way anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that's footy media this week. What's Clarko doing? Is he
Clarko watch.
Is he vaguely threatening female journalists, or is he?
We'll get there. You go first.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. We saw a season where like key defenders were back in vogue, and I think we saw that a bit reflected in the draft as well. More key defenders in the top 20 or 30 than we'd normally see after some big years last year, especially with players being played out of position or fresh players coming in. So I'm keen to see where it goes. I think my take was going to be, the first question I would ask you would be, who do you think is going to be our, where do you rate as the best and worst defences in the comp coming into this year?
Oh, okay. So
I've done no prep on this either, so I'm not.
I would love to pick my bogey, which is Essendon, but I think they've got a really good defensive core. They just need to play defensively. I'm probably going to say West Coast, because outside of Barras, it's a bit bare.
I know they've got injured and old.
They've got some younger keys that are coming through, but I don't feel too bullish about that one. Yo's gone back. It's not number one for me personally. Number one, I can't really fault them at the moment. Has to probably be Fremantle. They keep everyone to a low score, and they're relatively well stocked back there injury wise.
Yeah,
I mean outside of Hamling.
I think Freo and Melbourne are the two again in terms of just looking at on paper who's got the best backline from what the players are. Melbourne's is really hard to go by when you just look at Lever and May as your starting pillars. And obviously Petty came on fantastically last year.
Has he been training up forward still? Are they still trying to do that?
I think maybe he's a swing man, but I think he's still a defender. I think, and yeah, Freo were brilliant. Like you look at how well they defended, even letting way more inside 50s in than teams like Melbourne and Geelong, who had a similar amount of points against last year. They were brilliant.
I think despite not the names being there on paper, I think Port's pretty underrated as well.
Yeah, I think Port, and I would have said St Kilda until their entire team got injured during the off-season, were teams that I think their backlines stack up really well.
Yeah. I think, like you said, with a lot of keys being drafted, I think a lot of sides have realised that they're not going to go all the way unless those pillars are there.
Yeah.
Like the Western Bulldogs have been lacking their keys down back. They lost Cordy to St Kilda, who need keys down back.
Yep. And
Collingwood have traded in Frampton. Didn't look like it was going to work from what I saw from the practice match, but give him time.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
First shakeout.
This week will be the one that you really want to watch, I think, with like regulated actual AFL umpires and scorekeeping and that kind of stuff. My worst, I think, is North. I think the loss of Walker, he was a big part of their structure. Hawthorn's another one. They've got some good young players, but I think outside of Sicily, they are.
I definitely think Granger Barras will be better for a year under his belt, and he had a couple of shocking games, but you learn.
Yeah,
when you're young.
A young footballer.
They're probably in the mix for me. I think I'm still picking West Coast, but
Yeah, and you look at the other teams that are down there, I think that I think they'll be poor, probably bottom 4 this year. GWS's backline is good. Like you said, Essendon's backline is a good backline. So they're not teams that are down there because they're struggling for defensive stocks. They're struggling because
What about Adelaide?
Yeah, I don't know. Adelaide is strange. They got Jordan Butts, who's great, and then
Is he going to be a midfielder again, though?
who knows?
Not Jordan Butts.
not
Sorry,
Jordan Butts,
I mean Jordan Dawson.
Dawson, yeah, no. They've got Jordan Dawson and Jordan Butts. Dawson was a wingman last year, / forward, so that was strange. I think they are lacking.
What's he named? Halfback?
They lost Hardigan
To
Hawthorn, who's now
who's
been
delisted.
delisted anyway, but like I thought that was a big loss for them with nothing down there. And now it's just Butts fighting the fight in a team that
2 days there.
their midfield is okay, but it's a lot of
It's really carried by
it's a lot of what Adelaide has always been in the sense that it's a lot of outside run, outside of Laird and Keys.
Laird and Keys are beasts. Yeah. Let's not get that wrong for a second. But yeah, I think they're one I've got a question mark over defensively, but I know we're just going off pre-season. They looked all right.
Yeah, I thought like it is always hard to judge, as we always pre-season, especially with the games that are weird quarters and teams are playing players half with the AFL side, half with the twos. Like it's always a bit strange. But the things to watch were I'm going to be rolling out just a few things on the website for teams' backlines, just names and numbers over the next few weeks. And it was really funny seeing people like Jack Bowes in there who guaranteed is not training as a defender for Geelong. And some players like that. I think Shaki will be used as a swingman for Melbourne. Like he'll be like the Mitch Brown. If a backman or a forward goes down, he'll be the person that comes in to cover that spot.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think there's a lot of positions outside of a few are dead. Midfielders are forwards and wingmen. Wingmen are everywhere. They're defenders basically. Unless you're a key
fullback
forward
or a full
key
forward,
back.
yeah, you have to play anywhere. And even sometimes then. Like,
Even your key forwards are got in the midfield. You've got Stringer and Cameron.
But even then, Petty and De Koning and Henry playing forward in patches last year.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's you need to be flexible, and it really does help teams get that upper edge when you can do something like Petty almost won Melbourne that game, going up forward and playing the way he did. So like, there's a value to being able to just throw a spanner in the works like that.
I'm worried about that because of the loss of Wiedemann, whether he's going to end up there more often, but. Maybe with a bit of a haircut, Brown will do a bit better.
They've got that other kid in the VFL who looked really good.
Van Rooyen.
Yeah, he looked really good in the VFL last year. So hopefully, like they obviously weren't going to throw him in the deep end leading up to finals as a young forward, because that is how you kill someone as a player. But I do think that he should get a run, at least in some early or middle stages this year. Because
we'll see. It depends on how their season's going, I get.
Yeah, no, that's fair. So the tiny angry elephant in the room, which is Alistair Clarkson.
Yeah, namesake.
That's been an off season to forget, hasn't it? I mean, you go in, you have a scandal swept under the rug, which hasn't been swept under the rug because I feel like every time his name comes up, the comments, no matter where it is, Facebook or Twitter, are like, so that probe.
I don't know what's going on there. I feel like we're never going to get a resolution to that because the season is around the
start and he's coaching. Somehow.
I feel like, man, it's going to be a real stressful time for North if he gets ousted.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling, this is conspiracy vibes, but like Gill staying on for the amount of extra time he has to be
very strange. Like he announced it mid last year that last year was going to be he's going, and the season starts in 3 weeks, and he is CEO still. Like
I mean, it would not be a good headline if it said Gillan McLaughlin abandons AFL amidst racism probe.
That's true. Yeah.
He can't do that, so he has to stay on. But the question is, will it be swept under the rug or covered up, or will actual change be made? I'm betting on the former.
I think it's sleeping. Despite all of the articles written last year, but they can't, hide this one. Like, it's not a kind of scandal to go away. It's
gone away.
It's gone away.
It's gone.
It's very strange.
Yeah, it's wild, and I don't hear anything about Chris Fagan's involvement anymore.
Anytime Essendon gets mentioned online, a bunch of Collingwood fans will just talk about drugs for like 20 minutes. Much like if the Australian cricket team gets mentioned online, a bunch of Indians will come online and talk about sandpaper. But North and Clark get mentioned, and aside from the few people who are just like, what happened to that probe? There's no it's not just like the rampant comment section you think it would be.
It's because no one cares about North Melbourne.
It's the best club And by that I mean like the worst in terms of any actual progress.
If it happened to
but
GWS or Gold Coast...
But it happened at Hawthorn. Like the actual scandal.
That's true. Hawthorn are under the radar because they've been bad lately.
Yeah, they avoided being talked about the sweeping under the rug by sacking everyone over the age of 25 except for James Sicily. And just... That's tanking,
Luke Brewster's
isn't it?
still there, right?
That is tanking in its purest form.
Ah, look, my club's done it, so...
Fire sale.
I've seen it happen, and it doesn't go well. Good luck to them. I think Sam Mitchell's a great coach.
Yeah, I still think that he is going to steal wins this year from better teams just because his coaching is very good.
Yeah. And that's the thing about having a young team is they will listen to you.
Yeah.
He doesn't have any of the remnants of that era, which was the unsociable football era. That's gone. Except for Luke Bruce, who I think is a pretty malleable player anyway, and James Sicily, who went from being one of the angriest footballers on a field to the captain of their football club.
Speaking of the practice matches, I saw a highlight.
He's the captain, right?
He is the captain,
okay.
It was only named, I think, this week, but he is. I saw some highlights of one of our favourites, Jath, taking a ridiculous hanger in the practice match, and I was just like, that's what I want to see. Like, that's...
I hope his game improves, because...
Him getting injured last year ruined their little run of form I think they were having. His and Sicily's bounce together was so important to the way they were playing. And I think him going down for that patch of, I think it was like 8 weeks, probably cost them a few games against teams that they would have beaten playing the way they were at the start of the year.
I think he's very important to the way that they attack or launch attacks from defence. Without him, it falls apart a bit because they don't have as much of that skill coming out of the back 50, which is, again, why you probably nominated them for potential worst.
Yeah.
But, yeah, he's a bit of a gun, and it'll be good to see him keep going. He got a lot of votes from us last year, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So.
He was, especially before he got injured, he was right up there. And it was really funny when I was going through the teams. I was like, oh, West Coast. I was like, oh, Barras, who literally won the award last year for us.
Their points were high because of Barras.
Because of him.
I'm
and McGovern.
wondering who else. McGovern would have got some.
Yeah.
Anyone else, you reckon?
No. And we could check it, but I reckon it was those two and then Daylight.
I'm trying
They
to think
must have had someone play some half-back games. We definitely didn't give any votes to Witherden.
No votes to Yo.
Well, no, Yo played, 3 games and got
One
12
of them he
touches?
did really well.
Hearn, can't see it. Cole,
There's a potential for maybe a Hearn vote, but I don't think it happened.
No, I don't think so. I think it might have just been those two.
Someone could fact check it. You, not me.
Yeah, I'll fact check it another day. I'm actually it's in the stats I'm putting down for each team when I'm making the little release. I think it's enough days from now until round 1 starts that I can put out a team a day or something.
I believe in you.
The season. Maybe 2 teams a day if it's too close. I'll do the maths later.
Just dump them all on the last day when you've inevitably forgotten about it. That's a hard one to say.
Yeah, we'll forget about it. It saved me long enough just to make the templates for each team, let alone actually write anything. That's a nightmare. Yeah, I think I'm excited for this season because there was a lot of teams last year who were thereabouts. I think Port obviously showed after their 5-game losing streak that they probably should have been the team that made it ahead of the Bulldogs. And then the Bulldogs beat Fremantle in the first week of the finals, who looked like they should have been top 4 all year. Carlton either beat or got very close to every team in the top 6. Gold Coast were pretty much the same. And then I can't see many of the teams that were in the 8 going backwards. I think they should all be similar to where they were. So
I think Collingwood's the slider, right?
Yeah, if they are. I think it's a 50-50 with them because...
All you need to do is have the opposite luck, right?
Yeah,
if
exactly.
they lose 11 of the games that they won by under 17 points...
Or even 5.
Then they're bottom 4.
But even if they lose 5, they don't make the finals, and they finished 4th. So I think the thing with Collingwood... I think we talked about this last year, but people talked about their season as if they were like this team of, they've come from second last, and they're this team of kids, and it's like, they made a grand final 4 years earlier... and finished top 2 the year before that bad season.
Their midfield is Taylor Adams.
The blip season was the season in the middle. Not
side bottom.
Not them finishing top 4. That was where they should have been in between. And even Moore's, 28 or something?
He's not that old, is he?
I think he might be. He's been around a while now.
I'll check it out. I did some fact-checking, by the way. Shannon Hearn was the only other Eagles player to get votes besides McGovern and Barras. He got 2. Sorry.
Got 2. But yeah, they're not as young a team as I think people were talking about them being last year. They looked young because Nick Dacos was very good, and everyone was going, "Wow, Nick Dacos
Dusty Moore is
27."
You're right.
So, I think it's about whether the young players get better at the same rate that the Pendleburys and Sidebottoms are going to slow down, because they were still
Sidebottom
really important.
was... Oh, I mean, Josh Dacos should have been Wingman of the Year in that side.
For sure.
But Sidebottom was just as pivotal. Pivotal.
You noticed so many
their
times that despite, when they were playing exciting football, Nick Dacos and Jordan Dougall were in the middle, but when they were in trouble, Pendlebury and Sidebottom were in the middle, because that was the people who could play the right football and get them out of those situations. And
their style of football is very dependent, and it was even watching the practice match just recently. They are all about clean skills out of the middle,
yes,
and not panicking.
And
if the younger that team gets, the more likely it is that they're going to panic.
And the slower Pendlebury and Sidebottom get, which Sidebottom still looked quick last year, and
he was really good.
Annoying.
He was finding space where he should not have been able to.
All of them were. They had the biggest engine that I saw in the comp last year.
Which is
their
strange
run was
because
insane.
they were a bottom 4 side.
Speaking of Collingwood, I have a bone to pick with them, and it's Nathan Murphy, because I've been trying to watch cricket for the last 3 weeks, and I keep calling Todd Murphy Nathan Murphy because I spent a whole season being like, man, I really like Nathan Murphy.
Same guy.
Big fan. No.
Nathan Murphy's got a mean spin bowl on it.
Nathan Murphy's about a foot taller, has long hair, doesn't wear glasses.
Yeah, he was really good. I'm sure he got some sneaky votes from us too.
He did get a few, and I think he'll be another one that will improve, looking at backlines. And their backline is already good. They're a solid backline. The only reason they had trouble a few years ago is they just got ran through with injuries. But you look at Darcy Moore strung together most of a season. Obviously, Murphy stepped right into that gap. Howe, when he's available, is still Jeremy Howe.
Yeah.
And then the runners in their backline are
that's
also
another
great.
one to add to the aged brigade.
Yeah, that's true.
Mason Cox is about 100 years old too.
He is, because obviously he didn't start until he was 25 or so he's older, people think. And Maynard is another one that just is brilliant. He was All-Australian last year, I think, and should have been.
Yeah, deserve it.
So they're another team with a really good backline. And then they've got good names all around the field, but then they've got the ones that you look at and you go, who?
I think their forward line's the question.
It is.
And it
has been for years.
McStay kicked a couple of goals in that practice match, but I don't know if he's their number one target.
It was so weird to me that you would push out Grundy and pay part of his salary, and then pay someone like McStay, who is probably worth as much that Grundy saved you. I'd rather have Grundy, even as a forward.
Especially with the recent Ned Guy drama with Collingwood and losing players that they probably could have kept.
And let's not even go into keeping Jordan Dougall on big money, despite everything.
And then seeing bits from that documentary come out and Grundy being legitimately shattered. He was ready to be loyal to that club until he retired, and now he's playing. There's an
interesting book I've
side.
seen people talking about as well from Ned Balme, talking about his time at Collingwood, which is before he was at Geelong and then Richmond, and he was saying that despite the fact that he was in charge, he was the head of football at the time. Neil Balme, sorry, Ned Balme.
I was trying to figure out who the hell you were talking about.
And him saying that at one point Eddie Maguire, it was when Malthouse got appointed coach. Eddie Maguire came to him, and instead of asking, as he should have been, because the president is not meant to have that level of control, instead of asking if Maguire was a good fit, he basically told him. And Ned Balme was like, it's my job.
Neil Balme.
Neil Balme.
You're Nathan Murphy, Todd Murphy. Maybe you're just dumb.
Maybe I'm just stupid. That's probably more likely. But yeah, he was saying that he was like, that's not how the club should be run. And obviously Malthouse took them through a very successful era. Were they not up against a incredible Brisbane team?
I wonder how that team would have played out if he'd stayed. He was clearly the right fit for those players.
They just wouldn't let him do a rebuild.
I think he could have slowly. Look at who's in that side now. They're still playing players from that era.
I think we've learned a lesson from Damien Hardwick and now Chris Scott and coaches like that.
People are getting sacked too quickly.
That we're kind of going, maybe if a coach has a few good seasons and you think it's promising and then it slips off, you just need to give it a bit longer, because you don't build a team overnight.
It's not about the coach, it's about everything surrounding them. If you don't have good assistants and a good CEO and president and people to manage everything...
Not to besmirch the name of one of the men on the award that we give out on this show, but Geelong doing the Firehouse sale with overbearing assistants like Scarlett leaving and bringing in all fresh faces and people who were eager to work as a team.
Yeah.
And you could see the way they were running as a team was better. They didn't feel like sections on the field. It was a team. And I think that we're going to see that a lot more in football, like a team of coaches rather than a head coach and assistants.
I think there's two examples right now in their old heads. It's Clarko and Ross Lyon, who have walked into clubs and just demanded
people were
X, Y, and Z.
I can comprehend fighting over Clarkson, right? I think that it's a bit soon. Sorry, a bit, not the
Jack,
other way. It's a bit long out of the game, but like Clarkson coached 4 premierships, 2 of them, like against Sydney and Geelong, where baffling that they won those. And Lyon has coached 2 losses, 3 losses.
Alistair Clarkson pinched Brian Lake and made him their defensive pillar. Ross Lyon
took Zach Dawson to 2 clubs.
2 grand finals.
He did, yeah.
3 grand finals.
4 if you count the draw.
There you go.
Zach Dawson handed to Tom Hawkins in the goal square across the face of goal the 2009 grand final.
If you want to talk about a defensive coach doing great things, he turned Zach Dawson into
a 3-time runner-up grand final player.
This is a bit mean. I like Zach Dawson.
Look, it's never been in doubt that Ross Lyon coaches a defensive game style well, but the modern game doesn't. Like Richmond ruined that. Richmond took that out of football.
It's gone.
You can't do that anymore. You need a good backline. Richmond always had one, and they still do. But you can't just defend forever anymore because teams like Richmond and the way Geelong and Melbourne now play will just tear you open.
There was only one team successful at it last year, and it was Freo. And when they got torn apart, they got torn apart.
Yeah, you saw that at the end of the year. And like even though Collingwood were just running over the top of teams, like that defensive game wouldn't work against that run either. Like I do wonder, and Lyon said that he's not going to go back to his old ways, but like you have to wonder then why he was hired because that was where he got success.
Yeah. Is Cordy their new Dawson? He's playing up forward in the practice match.
Yeah, well, that's only because they've got no one up there. I was like, why are they bringing in Cordy? They just recruited Sam Darcy, who looks like a good defender. Keith is obviously a really good defender. I was like, that seems weird. And then Cordy
left the club that those 2 were at. He went to St Kilda.
Sorry, you're so right.
Yeah, where they've got Dougall Howard.
Yeah,
and
Dougall Howard. Highmore's career's dead then, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there.
Very strange.
Weird, because he came in for a couple of games and was killing
when
it
he plays and I'm watching on my phone instead of the TV, I think is Howard every time I see him. And then I see them turn around, I'm like, it's Highmore again.
We're reaching the point of AFL where everyone's changed clubs 4 times and
I have to wait 5 rounds into the season
to
be able to play
Dougall Howard, and I think of 8 different clubs. He's only been at 2.
Port Adelaide? It's a strange name, Dougall Howard, I'll be honest with you.
God, we're at that point, are we?
It's almost Doogie Howser.
Alright, well, if he gets points this year, give him to Doogie Howser.
Dougall Howard, MD.
That's the name of the episode.
I saw the other day on Lad Bible.
Oh, here we go.
Brody telling the story about how he almost lost the skin off his penis.
His todger.
And I was like, you couldn't pay me to tell everyone that I almost lost my cock.
Look,
I guess when you're married to a reality TV star, that's the kind of interviews you do.
I've never met Nathan Broad, but I've heard a lot about him, and he sounds
You went to school with him for 4 years.
Yeah, well, you know me pretty well. I don't remember half of the people I went to high school with. You could be like, oh, do you remember? You sat next to them for 3 years, and I'll be like, I have no idea who that man is. Nathan Broad seems like the kind of person to do an interview about his penis.
He does, yeah. Because someone just asked him, and he's just too nice to say no, and he just go on with the story. But yeah, it's
a shame. That's an exclusive you could have brought us.
We could have.
Now it's on Lad Bible.
We are still the only person who's mentioned that he was an under 10 Bindoon Dirt Drags PW 50 champion. So that's still our.
That's our only insight.
Hot scoop.
That's all we got.
I've got nothing else. He won the Bindoon Mora skate competition in some year. I don't know. I'd fallen off my rollerblades and came second out of 2 people and had a water bottle.
Who was in charge? Your mum?
I was on rollerblades. Different. Okay. Brody was skateboarding.
Okay.
There was only.
How many skateboarders were there in?
Oh, 20. There was 2 people on rollerblades. I couldn't skateboard. And then some kid from Mora who was half my age just came out and did a backflip off the ramp, and I was like,
well, I can't beat that. You know how we spent most of our high school days making fun of people for riding scooters? I didn't know that you were a rollerblader.
When I was 8. Only in primary school. By the time I got to high school, I couldn't rollerblade from Bindoon to Midland.
That's your new challenge.
Could you imagine how numb your legs would be?
How many active listeners do we have on this podcast?
Not enough.
If I-
Too many, actually.
No, tell me
I
how
saw
many.
those Spotify stats. It's too many.
You saw the Spotify
It was like
stats.
20-ish.
All right, if I raise that to 50 by the end of this season,
Will I
you
rollerblade from
Bindoon to
Bindoon to Midland? I'll do my best. I think it would take days.
Yeah, it could be your new fitness thing.
There's hills.
Perfect.
So many hills.
Lock it in.
50. That's such a small number.
Yeah, well, it's more than double what we have.
It's more than double.
I'm going to get my advertising shoes on.
If Sydney had more than doubled their score in the grand final, they would have lost by like 3 or 4 goals instead.
Still riding high on that one, huh?
I feel like I should be riding higher. Like, I feel like I should have had more gusto, but I just couldn't do it. My boss is a Sydney supporter. I didn't give him shit once because he just wasn't there for the week after.
It was an incredibly boring game.
It
The
was.
most exciting part was eating food, to be honest.
Oh, it's a good spread. It's a good spread.
But you're experienced. What's that, 4 grand finals for you in the past?
Yeah.
How many
4
years?
since I started high school, which is
So, man,
pretty dope. I did get the tattoo, so that was one thing.
that wasn't because of it though, right?
It was, yeah.
Oh, there you go. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was tossing up between 2, and I was like, if Geelong win the premiership, it'll be that one.
Oh.
Yeah.
See, I don't listen to anything you say.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I don't even know why I'm on this podcast.
Well, it's so that next week I can tell you the same things and you still think it's interesting.
That's why you keep me around.
Sounding board. Anyway, I think that's a wrap for episode 1.
Considering nothing's happened except for scratch matches that don't mean
Hey,
anything.
Asava
Clarkson yelling
Radagalia
at
is a
people.
key defender now, and with Jack Henry having
Was he
foot
listed
surgery,
on the website as a key defender?
he wasn't.
Then he's
But I've
not.
snuck him in. With Jack Henry out, year of the rat. He's going to play round 1, centre half back.
It's a worry, but we'll see how it goes.
That or Blixar's just going to go back to defence.
Who was Geelong playing in round 1?
Collingwood.
Oh, interesting.
I think
Maybe
that's an
McStay gets off the leash.
exciting game. Surely Sav plays the intercept role, not an actual lockdown.
He won't play lockdown.
TDK locks down.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. We'll see what happens come round 1.
I'm
It
excited.
still feels like there's a whole month until then.
Yeah, it is.
There is.
It's still a while away.
Are we doing this every week up
It's
until the
March
thing?
by the time this comes out. That's all right. Last practice matches this week. That's the real one. Then we'll.
16th of March is the
That's
first
only
game.
that's only two and a half
Yeah,
weeks.
that's actually not as bad as I thought.
It's like this. It's 2 weeks. Yeah, after this.
All right.
Yeah.
Too
That's
easy.
soon. So we got a practice match. We'll be able to see if we notice anyone playing backline. We won't. We'll forget by the time we record again.
No, I'll watch some practice matches.
I'll watch them.
Yeah.
Well, at least they won't be like last week. They were like, "Hey, it's midday on Thursday. The footy's on." All right,
And at the end of the game, they're like, X player had 12 stats. Maybe we didn't
If
count.
no one was keeping stats, how hard would it have been to have someone just like tracking the numbers on it
Someone
from the AFL?
club was definitely doing it.
From
so
how hard the AFL was marketing those practice matches being on KO, they sent out one cameraman with a camcorder, and no one took stats.
Yeah. So useless for anyone who cares way too much about their fantasy.
Yeah, which is
you just find
us.
out, you just see the player was playing, and it doesn't help you.
yeah. Someone was tracking the centre bounce attendances online. I saw that. That was good.
That's good, but like I know how many centre bounce attendances I saw
'cause I can
Tom
see
Mitchell
that.
at.
Yeah.
But I definitely didn't see him play well.
No.
But I don't know what his stats were because he's an accumulator.
Brody Grundy looks like he's a good ruckman. He could pick up. It's a crazy.
knows?
Who would have thought?
Not Collingwood.
Let's just throw away a generational ruckman and pay part of his salary. All good. Because as we know, ruckman are the easiest thing to find in football.
Yeah, it's not like people are about to be lobbying $1 million towards TDK at the end of this season
Yeah.
or anything.
It's not like Geelong picked up Segler at the end of last year just in case they didn't have a ruckman. Like, I can't fathom having a player as good as that, and instead of him wanting to leave, like we saw, I think back to 09, you had the Gardner and King at St Kilda. They both wanted to leave the clubs they were at to get more opportunity.
Yeah.
So that made sense. And they were both very good ruckmen. But, like, you don't see players like that leave clubs that are forced to leave as rucks. Like, it's so rare.
I'm trying to think of big ones that have left recently. Meek just went to Hawthorn for time.
Yep,
With Luke
but, like,
Jackson coming in, it makes sense.
Darcy
right?
and Jackson's an incredible ruck combo.
And I think the recent biggest one was probably Bruce leaving. Where did he start with?
He
Went to
started
Melbourne?
at North, went to Melbourne, now he's at GWS.
Yeah.
He still can't play 2 games without getting suspended or injured or both.
And North have like 6 ruckmen on their list currently. So,
Constantine's still going.
yeah.
Do you reckon he wishes he went to Geelong when they tried to give him all that money? Like,
Well,
5
to be
years
fair,
ago?
he could have a premiership, so potentially. Who knows what would have...
Who knows?
changed in that.
Swings and roundabouts.
What's that movie with Ashton Kutcher? Butterfly Effect.
Oh, I was going to say 40 Days and 40 Nights, but that's the other guy.
That's the other guy, Josh Hartnett.
Josh Hartnett.
Is that actually who it is? Anyway, this has gone too long. We should have ended 10 minutes ago.
We'll be back next week to talk about football that we actually watched and maybe knowing...
Jack's watching it. I might watch it.
I'll watch at least 2 games. Because I don't have champion data work yet, so... Anyway, until then, thanks for listening, and we'll see you around.
Get us to 50.